Today we're mixing it up and giving you a whiteboard video, not like we do it every single week, and we're talking about real bikes for real adults. Or is it just bikes for real adults? Logan, what is a real adult?
I mean, that's a tough question, ain't it? You know, I've been racking my brain all morning. What does it mean to be an adult? Am I even an adult? Sure, I could vote. Sure, I could, put my life on the line for this country. But I think really just comes down to, you've developed some maturity, some wisdom, whatever that means for you in your life.
You give a guy a camo hat and he's already heading off to Iran to fight for us, right? So yeah, I think of a real adult as someone who is, further along in life. They're not just starting out, myself, I've got a mortgage, a wife, kids, I got bills to pay. I feel like a real deal adult. And we were thinking about it, and that some motorcycles, for lack of a better word, they come across as maybe a little immature, a little childish, and you're like, do I really want to be seen on something like that? So in today's video, we're going to give you tons of examples of bikes that we think a real adult could own. But we know that a real adult has some nuance as well. You got new riders, tasteful riders, maybe someone who wants something for very specific purposes. So let's start off with the first choice. All right, Logan, let me paint you a scenario. Let's say you're an adult that just can't quite give up speed yet.
Sure.
You have kind of moved into the echelon of being a real adult, and you're also like, man, I still want to go fast, but I don't want to go too crazy. I want something beautiful. I think the best bike you can get, in my personal opinion, is a last generation Panigale V2. Something beautiful, something exotic looking, something still track capable, still fun, torquey for the street, realistic in its power delivery, but still a little spicy. Because I think the brand new V2, while it is a fantastic motorcycle, I think if you want, true twin cylinder Ducati fun, this would be my choice for that sort of adult. How does this strike you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we've talked about, it communicates taste, right?
Yes.
It's if you're 40, pushing 50 maybe, and you still want to do the occasional once a year track day, you don't want to roll up with a ZX6 or, it's just, what are people going to think about it, And
but maybe that rider has reached a point where they're like, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. Maybe. I'm going to have Arrested Development and be on my ZX6. I don't know.
Maybe, and good for them. Maybe it's some sort of, spiritual evolution, who really can say. But I think the Panigale V2 is a nice choice for a more adult rider too, because then you can think, they've assumed enough financial responsibility to afford to own, to care for a last-gen Ducati V2s.
Yeah, which nowadays they are ratcheting up in years and maintenance costs and all that sort of stuff. And let me tell you, the Superquadro with 4 beautiful desmodromic valves and timing belt and all kinds of crazy stuff, it is not going to be cheap to service. And where I kind of thought of this was, like someone who wants to go fast, still wants something beautiful. We were talking about this where let's say you meet someone and they're like, hey, you ride motorcycles, what do you ride? Do you really want to be in your 40s and pull out the phone and be like, hey, this is my lime green ZX6, or hey, this is my Yamaha R9? It just feels a little, I don't know, immature, let's say. And I would prefer to be an adult and own something more prestigious, something cooler like a Ducati V2. And I do have a soft spot for these. I think they're really sweet. So the dimension we're going to add to today's video is whether or not we would own these as a real adult. And I think as an adult, I would definitely do that. I would do last gen Panigale V2. I would personally do it. What about you? Would you do it?
Nah, too rich for my blood.
He's too much a man of the people. Look at his camo hat. He doesn't match a Ducati.
I don't want to take care of it. I don't want to pay for it.
That's totally fair. Totally fair.
I'm a Honda guy. I like they work and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, you're a Honda guy and a Sportster guy. Like you absolutely just want them to work.
Yep.
Moving on.
So for my first bike for today, I kind of went in a similar direction, but also a completely opposite direction. So I'm thinking, communicate taste. You've got some years under your belt, some wisdom. I've got appreciation for design, for the finer things, old world craftsmanship. So I went with the Moto Guzzi V85. So there's sort of, adventure, comes in a couple different trims, ranging from adventure-y to sport touring, but at the end of the day, it's a Guzzi, transverse V-twin, air-cooled, cool style, old world charm. I think it's a pretty sweet bike, and I think a young person would say that bike is slow and not worth the money and weird looking. And an old person would say, that's exactly the point.
That's actually really true. I think Guzzi as a brand is like the real adult brand.
Yeah.
I've never met well, I guess it's going to be really rare to meet like some 22-year-old brain rot-addled CF Moto owner looking at a Guzzi and be like, yes, I want a Guzzi. It's almost like there's like a barrier to entry to even like think about Moto Guzzis, you know? So is this the new one that they have on sale, or is this the older one? I don't remember.
Yeah, this is their current one.
The current one, okay. And that one's still air-cooled? I thought they moved to the Mandello.
That's the V100.
The V100, okay. Yeah. So this is the old one. Okay, yeah, that is a cool bike. Yeah, so this is like the touring one, more adventure-y.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. It's like the same way like the V7 is like the thinking man Sportster, right? Like it's like it has the same thing, but it's far more elevated, sophisticated, you know, a little bit more classy. I think the V85 is like, the adventure bike for someone that's like realistically knows they're not going to do any actual adventuring, but they want something cool, something different. They're not pretending they're an adult like all the GS owners. That's like pretender stuff. They just are a true adult, put their money where their mouth is, and they get the Guzzi.
Yeah, and the Guzzi's cheaper than GS's too. And we will point out, there are no GS's in today's video. No GS's. I didn't put any Road Glides or any Harley products. You may have done that. I don't know yet. We don't know each other's choices. But yeah, shaft drive, air cooled. Nothing's going to go wrong with this. And if something does, the jugs are exposed. Go in there and get in there and do some work yourself, which I imagine a real adult would either take it to the dealer, have it done, or maybe they're, got some time to tinker in the garage or something like that. But that's a cool bike though, yeah. Would I own one today? Do I have the gumption? Do I have the ego death to own a V80 or V85? I don't think so, personally. I don't know if it's quite my speed. What about you? Would you do it?
Hit me with the check. Yeah, I definitely do it. I've looked at it. That was my initial thought.
You have this thing like you want a big air-cooled touring style bike. I know you do. Because it kind of fits both of your like Sportster and Transalp in one.
Completely.
I get that.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I am right on the cusp of buying a new personal motorcycle, so you guys stay tuned. Watch this space. Moving on. Next motorcycle for real adults, I think, is a choice that is for someone who's experienced, Logan. Somebody who wants a motorcycle that communicates that they can handle it. No nannies, no nothing. I'm talking Honda RC51, baby.
Oh, there we go.
One of the greatest twin-cylinder superbikes to have ever existed. No ABS, no TC. Maybe you got a little bit of mechanical acumen you want to work on it yourself. You're living those glory days of Colin Edwards and World Superbike. I think these things are really cool, and every time I see one, it's a real treat. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to even be, a very well-established real adult to even have a feigning memory of this bike, right? 20 years ago or whatever is a long time ago. But yeah, cool bike. I think it's similar to Panigale. It communicates taste. You could have got an R1, you could have got an S1000RR, but no, you got the vintage big V-twin Honda superbike. I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the vintage, like old school superbike thing is really neat. The twin cylinder ones are really cool from back in the day. And my buddy Brandon has one of these. Every time he fires it up, I'm always like, wow, that's such like a great classic.
Is he a real adult?
I would say so. He also, much like me, has family, mortgage obligations, big kid job, all that stuff. So look at him go. There you go. Yeah.
Proof is in the pudding.
Proof is in the pudding. I personally, as much as I think these bikes are cool and very much for real adults, I wouldn't own one at this stage in my life. Too much time, maintenance, effort, energy, too much care and feeding, one would say. What about you?
I probably got a pass too. I think it's cool. I'd probably be more likely to own that than the Ducati, just because it's even more esoteric. And I'm a bit of a Honda guy, I suppose, but I couldn't bring myself to own one either.
Yeah, I don't think I could either. But a pretty sweet bike for real adults. Moving on.
So my line of thinking for this next bike on the list was, it's for the adult that maybe doesn't even fully realize they're an adult yet. And that's going to be the Z900RS.
Oh.
So my thinking is, you go to the Kawasaki dealership, you're looking at all the sport bikes, you're looking at the Z900, you're like, I could have an H2 or a ZH2. I mean, because you're probably not going to have an H2 on the showroom, let's be real. And you end up walking out the proud owner of a Z900RS. You're like, you ended up on something a little bit more classic looking, a little bit more timeless. It has the semblance of a Japanese sport bike, at its core.
Yeah, it's sort of like a revitalized UJM, and I think the Z900RS is one of the ones that does it best, Like Honda's about to come out with their CB1000F, but I think the RS is actually better because it has, wait for it, twin analog gauges, and I do think that looks nicer than a big square. And yeah, like if you're looking for inline 4 performance, you want something that gives you that fizz the Japanese bikes do, but yeah, like Logan said, can't quite stomach the Sugomi styling of something green like the Z900. It just looks a bit awkward. This is one you can take a photo of, be very proud to own it, post it up on Instagram or, God forbid, Facebook, because you are a real adult. You're on Facebook for some reason.
LinkedIn, maybe?
Yeah, on LinkedIn. It's not a motorcycle, it's a lifestyle statement, and then like got some AI slop on LinkedIn or whatever. Yep. But this one, I could, I actually considered this bike.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy. The bike I've got coming up here pretty soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, if I do end up pulling the trigger on it. I did actually think about the Z900, yeah.
You'd really be putting your money where your mouth is in that.
That'd be crazy, yeah. And I was like, I actually can't bring myself.
The comments would go nuts. Every Z900 owner, because we have been much more fair to the RS versus the regular Z900, but all the Z900 owners would have a field day for sure.
They would, yeah. So I gotta say, like, I could do it.
Yeah.
That could be a bike that I could rock. Because I've never owned an inline four personally, actually. I've done for giveaways, but I've never actually owned one myself.
Yeah.
You actually owned a UJM though, right?
I cut my teeth on an old Suzuki from the 80s, inline four, air-cooled. So a little bit more archaic than something like the Z900RS, but I could see myself owning something like that too. Something I'm realizing too, the older I get, and the more time I spend with people who don't ride motorcycles, they tend to have an affinity or an appreciation for things with just more classic, timeless looks. You know what I mean? Like someone might say, well, yeah, it's a Kawasaki, you know, it's just a, you know, average inline four Kawasaki middleweight bike. But to someone who knows nothing about motorcycles, like, oh, it's cool, it's retro, especially if you find one in that green color. Like that's when having a lime green motorcycle is kind of cool, you know what I mean? And less of a lifestyle compromise, but
I think that's the Kenny Roberts one with the green and the bubble fairing and all that. That does look cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. So
cool
bike.
All right, Logan, let's say you're the adult that is pressed for time. You've got tons of obligations, work is driving you crazy, you got all sorts of kid stuff to do, you got soccer practice to get to. You have a very small amount of time to enjoy motorcycling. You want something fun, you want something no maintenance, you want something that still feels like a real adult would own it. I think of only one option, the Honda CB1000R. Did I put enough zeros? I did 0. I did 100R. Let's add an extra 0 there. 1000R. So this bike, as the Z900 is as well, it's just like a classic inline four formula, you know, just like a really beautiful shape and style. It's got that kind of like dark cherry gas tank to it. It can also come in the all black edition, but I personally think you should go with the red. I think all black and blacked out is very immature, one would say.
It's a young man's
aesthetic. It's a young man's game, you know? But this bike, it'll run forever, runs like a top, really nice and fun to ride, beautiful noises and sound out of this thing. And for the guy who, or gal, is very pressed for time, wants something fun for 2 hours, quick little canyon run and back. Turnkey, fun. All you gotta do is change the oil on this thing. I think this is a great choice. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And it's a little bit more timeless. Classic looking, you know.
And the thing about this bike is I think, again, the single round headlight, it really saves it from being that like, oh, it's a crotch rocket and it's a naked bike and has handlebars. A lot of normal people who aren't motorcycle riders wouldn't be able to make heads or tails of it. You know, they just see the shape and they're like, oh, this is like a classic good looking motorcycle, you know, but you know, you've got 150 horsepower to play with and like a very potent motorcycle. So I think these are a great hit. Would you own one, Logan?
I'd probably own one.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess I'll just sign off on all the Hondas.
You were thinking about a Hornet 1000 SP, right?
Yeah. And I still kind of like the idea of that, but then when you find out how detuned it is, I'm like, then I'm gonna have to flash it and get an exhaust, all this stuff. So I kind of talk myself out of it. But I don't know. I'm maybe coming around on inline fours again a little bit. Maybe it's just because it's different, right? You swing one way, then you take sick of it, you swing the other way.
That's very true. But, yeah. I had my dalliance with inline four thoughts. Like I said, the Z900, I was like, I almost actually bought one, but I think I do want big torquey twins and triples still. And so for me, it will be a pass. Inline fours, not really my bag, even though I just said I would have the Z900RS. But again, this bike fits the mold for the type of adult that I said, but I also think it's sort of like, it doesn't do anything that great. It's not retro enough to be like a cool retro bike. It's not modern enough to be like some roided out crazy naked bike. So to me, I would want a little more specialization. Like I would go like the Aprilia 210 V4, for example. So that'd be my choice.
Yeah, it's very, very Honda in that way.
Yeah, it's a little Honda, a little boring. But maybe that V3 boosted bike will come out and then I'm like, hey, look at that thing. All right, boys, time for a brief break to talk about one of our channel sponsors. I know a lot of guys out there have been trying to masterfully capture their rides. And as someone who's been around the block, I can tell you one of the biggest challenges is always gonna be low light image quality. But listen up, that's now one less thing to worry about with the DJI Osmo Action 6. Most cameras use teeny tiny sensors, and tiny sensors means a small amount of light. The Action 6 solves for this by using a 1/1.1 inch square sensor, which is physically larger than most action cameras on the market. Bigger sensor means more light, more definition, better highlights, and less grain should you be riding at dusk, through tree cover, or under a bridge. The Action 6 also uses larger 2.4 micron pixels and up to 13.5 stops of dynamic range. Now that means when you blast out of a tunnel into full sunlight, and the sky's not gonna blow out and the road's not gonna disappear from the shot. Around the studio, we always ask ourselves, does this shot look like reality? Because we're trying to create immersive POV. And DJI allows us to capture footage that actually looks like what your eyes see. If you're looking for top tier image quality on your action camera, click the link down below to check out the DJI Osmo Action 6. Thanks to DJI for the support on the channel, and let's get back to the show.
So this wasn't gonna be my next bike, it was gonna be later in the video, but it's kind of following the same, line of thinking we've been going over the last couple bikes. So this is gonna be the Yamaha FZ1.
How could you not?
So similarly, this is for an experienced rider, an older rider, who's just like real deal grassroots enthusiast. So, like he still stretches his Dainese leather jacket over his beer belly. He's still willing to ring out the inline four. He's fine with the Japanese bikes. He maybe had some old weird Project JDM cars or something too. He's still a young man at heart, but he's realistic. He's gonna go with the FZ1, which for people not in the know, is Yamaha's predates the MT10 of 999cc inline four, naked bike, kind of that sport touring-esque, whatever. Before naked bikes became hyper naked bikes and they were just standard bikes.
Yeah, and it didn't have the crossplane crank. It had the old school, just big standard inline four. And these are sleepers. I've talked about all the time on MZ1s. They come up on Facebook a lot. Do not sleep on these bikes. They are so nice. They're so nice.
And so it's for someone that's more big brained than the Suzuki Bandit 1200, but still in that sort of thinking of being they're a man of simple tastes, simple pleasures. They just want a bulletproof inline four Japanese bike that's more fun than their buddy's Honda Shadow or whatever else older guys ride.
Yeah. The FZ1, it's bulletproof. It looks sort of more normal and classic, and for the real adult who is. They understand the kind of equation of maximizing fun for dollar, and the FZ1 I think is basically unbeatable in terms of hey, drop $4 or $5 grand and get pretty much a perfect street bike that makes a ton of power. It makes as much power as a CB1000R for a third of the price. But they're harder to find, but again, perhaps this adult has, some mechanical aptitude, a little bit of knowledge, wants to put in the time and legwork to make the thing run right. Would you own one, Logan?
I wouldn't own one. It's too...
so quick draw on that one. He said, nah, I'm good.
It's because I know the exact type of person that does own these, and that just ain't me.
Yeah. What is the type of person who is it? 50 plus?
Yeah, just dyed in the wool, Japanese sport bike guy that's just aged out of fully paired sport bikes.
That's totally fair, yeah. Yeah, and he puts on the Dainese, it doesn't fit the beer belly, and he's well, I can't fit an airbag suitor to this. It's not gonna work. I also would pass on this one personally. I would like something with a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more panache, and maybe I just haven't reached the full Buddhist monk motorcyclist brain of you just need an FZ1 to be done with it.
Yeah, peak ascension.
Moving on. All right, we've talked a lot about real adults in terms of their experience level, their life experiences, and all that sort of thing. But a big burgeoning category of real adult rider is the new beginner adult. Let's say you're in your 40s, you're trying to get into riding motorcycles. There is nothing wrong with that, and that is awesome. But you've probably looked at the landscape and you're I don't know if I can do a CF Moto 450SS. That looks a little bit goofy for my adult tastes. So I know this is a layup pick, but Bonneville T100, I think, is one of the perfect new, more mature adult rider bikes.
Yeah, for sure. It fills the same role that the Sportster used to fill when that was still in production of it's a full-size motorcycle. It has curb appeal. It has big bike presence. It's more expensive than a younger rider would probably ever justify, 12,000-ish, 10 to 12,000-ish brand new. But it feels, upmarket. It feels premium. And an older rider that is established enough in their finance, 10 10 grand, 12 grand, you know, screw it.
That's the thing I was thinking of. It's not going to make a huge difference to that rider, you know, because like we hear a lot. It's like, oh, I went with the Royal Enfield 650 because I saved 5 or 6 grand. Well, hopefully someone in their 40s, you know, 5 or 6 grand is not going to make a huge difference for like the bike they really want, you know, and they want to point to something and say, oh, I'm proud of my Triumph, you know, I'm proud of the way it looks. I like it. And I see a lot of these kind of guys in Austin, you know, a lot of these like 40 to 50-year-old guys. You can kind of tell it's like their first or second bike. But also, this is a great bike to just keep forever, you know? Like, I would personally be very happy with a Bonneville. Like, I'm just going to put that check right there. You know, something classic, something cool, something beautiful. You'll never really get bored of it or like age out of it, you know? Like, it's a great bike.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the, you know, as the cruiser guy or whatever, that's the thing the cruisers or these more old school retro bikes do is like, they're not trying to make a ton of power, so it never feels like you need more power, right? Like you're riding them for different reasons, and they definitely have some staying power with that in mind.
Yeah. And I just think like they make a great sound, they have a cool look, like they've been the same, you know, stylistically since the 60s. It's a proven formula, especially the T100. It's the more like retro classic looking one. Like, you know, Triumph makes a lot of different Bonnevilles. The new Speeds are like, they've kind of grown into like these sort of like, almost like modern naked bike performance levels of motorcycle. The T100 is still, it's got the little pea shooter exhaust and the wire spoke wheels and the analog gauges. Like it just has that kind of timeless quality. So I think they're really cool. Would you ride one? Would you rock one?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nice.
For sure. So again, I'm sort of following a similar line of thinking. We did not discuss this list previously, I assure you, but I went, similar line of thinking, but on that more bargain end. And this is a proven fact. Older adult riders love Royal Enfields. It's true.
It's just true. So yeah, what do you got?
Royal Enfield.
That's fair.
Royal Enfield 650 Various, because it's INT,
so
Continental Shotgun. There's a new classic one or whatever.
Bear, Scrambler, Twink, Otter, you know, whatever they got going on over there.
And so it's a similar thing. Like if you're a new rider, but you're older in your 40s or something, you got no business being on like a Ninja 400 or 5. Like, come on, guys. Like it's.
But people do it, and people do it, but I wouldn't do it personally.
Yeah, it just feels like there's some sort of disconnect there. But something like, if you're just dabbling in the hobby, you're like, I want to try out motorcycling. I've got my kids are in school or my kids are in college. You know, you got time to kill, but you're not wanting to truly invest too much money. Yeah, you can buy these like used for like $4 grand. You know what I mean?
All day.
And they're decently reliable, simple. But they're classic, and you can do some cool mods on them, cool paint. They've got curb appeal. The average person is not going to say, oh, that's a cheapo Indian bike.
No.
They're going to say, oh, that's a cool classic bike, Royal Enfield, that maybe conjures some memory. I've maybe heard that before somewhere. So I think it's a cool buy.
Yeah, we actually did a video, Royal Enfield Continental GT review way back in the day, and we actually parked it in downtown Austin in the Seaholm district, and we just asked people, like, how much do you think this bike costs? And I think our average was like well over 5 figures. Like that was like our average of the data points we got. Because like the paint jobs are really cool on these, and I know that's really important to people. So would I own a Royal Enfield 650? Probably not. It's not my thing. I need a little. I'm a little pretentious. I need a little bit more brand cachet, a little bit more power. I would personally, because I still have the speed freak demon in me, it doesn't quite do it for me. What about you?
I probably wouldn't either. You know what I mean? I think if I did, it would have to be for some specific like project, right? Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna do like get one of the SNS big bore things, do whatever. But I also don't really want a project. So
no.
But if like I had, like if my wife were on to ride or something, maybe I'd consider one. But
Wow, he thinks it's a girl's bike. Wow.
No, it's just I know what she likes too. I know she likes style and charm.
We know what you said.
Like
we know the Royal Enfield people aren't going to forget that. Okay, Logan, my last choice here for the real adult. This is someone who wants to truly communicate taste. This is someone who wants to show the world I have excellent choice and ability in picking motorcycles. This is my chosen ride. I could think of nothing better than the Ducati S4RS. A motorcycle that I very much wanted and came this close to buying last year. The S4RS to me is pinnacle Ducati. Trellis frame, single-sided swing arm, dry clutch, the 998cc Desmo motor from the Superbike lifted directly into it, makes like 130 horsepower, weighs nothing. You can get them in the Tricolore liveries. They look really cool. They look classic. This to me is like perfect blend of like performance, timelessness, Ducati vibes. You know, you pull up anywhere with this thing, you're gonna get lots of attention. I think they're fantastic, really cool, and communicates a tasteful, real adult motorcycle. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it checks all the boxes, you know, both performance, style, brand cachet. It's also one of those things where you got to kind of be in the know to know. You know, to an average person, they'll probably be able to tell it's a Ducati.
Yeah.
But beyond that, they won't know how unique and special that specific model is, especially because they made so many monsters and various.
Yeah. It's hard to, I barely know all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna try to list some, but I literally can't. There's different numbers and then weird things and whatever. But to even ride a bike like the S4, yeah, it communicates. You don't just know about Ducatis, you know about the cool Ducatis, the rare Ducatis, the ones that are sort of all-encompassing in their greatness.
And what's cool about this one too is like it's not so old that it's gonna be like some vintage bike you gotta take care of, but it's not too new to where it's kind of sanitized and papered over, you know? This to me is like a perfect blend of like a really old school Ducati and a new Ducati that you can enjoy and ride all the time. And yeah, as Logan said, you pull up to a stoplight, most people are just gonna look and they'll be like, oh, he's got some sort of custom cool Ducati. But like, if you know anything about bikes, you'll think, wow, like that's so cool, you know, that's the S4RS. So yeah, for the type of real adult that wants to communicate, they have taste, and they don't want to show up because like we always talk about, it's so easy to go and buy some flashy new leader bike. Like that doesn't really communicate much other than like, I want to go fast, I want to have the flashiest thing. But this, truly special, truly interesting. And as mentioned earlier, I came this close to buying one, so I would happily have a Ducati S4RS. Fits my bag. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if money was no option, for sure. But I think they fetch a pretty penny these days.
Yeah, between 13 to 15 for a beat up, well, not beat up, for like an old Ducati, that's quite a bit. Yeah.
So if I had to pay for it with my money, I would say no. If it was just completely hypothetical, would you own this bike? I would say yes. Okay. So is that, if that's a half or
we'll put
however we want
a question mark.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So my final adult motorcycle is also a Ducati, but unlike a more particular, unique vintage, this one's kind of, you can walk into the dealership and buy one. Oh. And I'm talking Ducati Diavel. So my thinking about this is so my line of thinking was, it's a cruiser for adults, not senior citizen. You know what I mean? Like, you're old enough to want to be able to relax a little bit, but you're not so old that you're like Harley Davidson pilled and want, you know, a couch glide or whatever they're called. You know what I mean? You still want some oomph. You can get an older one with, I think the Testastrada V-twin or L-twin, or you can get the new one with the V4. There's the RS now if you want, you know, whatever that comes with.
They shoved the Desmo Sedici Stradale in the RS. That's crazy. Yeah. I think the big twin ones are where it's at, personally. But I'm like classic Ducati build.
Yeah, and again, this is sort of a lot of these bikes come from like, I've seen or know someone that has followed this trajectory, and I have a cousin, he was Turbo Hayabusa pilled, and then he got a Diavel, and a Testastrada Diavel. You know, you grow up, and you still want something cool, something fun, something powerful that makes cool noises, but you don't want a Turbo Hayabusa anymore. I guess you get a Diavel.
You don't want a big sport bike or something crazy, because they make these, you know, if you're not willing to fully commit, they do make them with mid-mounted controls. I don't remember the name. It's like X Diavel, and then there's just a regular Diavel.
I think the X Diavel has the forward controls. Like the X Diavel is the most cruiser-ish in its geometry, and then the regular Diavel is the mid-mounted ones, I believe.
Yeah, the ergos, like I said, if you don't want to fully commit to it, you can get them with full forward controls or mid controls. This is a cool option. I hadn't thought about the Diavel, and it's definitely one of those bikes, much like the Moto Guzzi, that I think only someone who is like a little more advanced, experienced, knowledgeable, understands why that particular bike is so great for someone who is just like further along. You know?
Yeah, and I think you have to like gain some, self-confidence, because it's not the most handsome motorcycle. You know what I mean?
I still think they look weird. I think their proportions are odd. I've always looked at Diavel. I never thought like, wow, it's a cool bike. I'm always like, that's a kind of a weird bike.
Kind of a weird bike for sure, but again, it's like you're confident in yourself. You know, you don't care what others think. You're in it for you. I think that's an adult move.
For sure. Yeah. Would you own one?
No, too ugly.
Same. I can't do it. It looks weird. But I'm like, if I'm gonna own a big twin Ducati, I can't. Why would I get a Diavel? You know, like, come on. I wouldn't get one personally. So, what do you guys think of our bikes for real adults? Are you a real adult, and do you own any of these? And you will notice we did not include any FJRs, any GSs, any Road Glides, because again, it was too easy to do that. It's too easy to be like, oh, you're the 45-year-old guy with an FJR. Come on, we got to keep it a little fresh here. So we tried to think outside of the box. Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching today's video. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.